live in the dungeon. This is the Dream Warrior Review. I'm Kurt Thomas.
I'm Mick Strawn.
And this is episode 41. This movie we're going to do right now,
Say it.
It's set in 1922.
It's set in 1922.
It's another Stephen King.
Another
this is
Stephen
based on
King.
a novella, which is like a shorter version of a novel.
It's based on it's based on 3 sentences that he wrote in a bathroom.
Right, probably.
On a bathroom wall. Yeah. Okay.
A farmer writes his confession on how he conspires to murder his wife for financial gain.
Woohoo.
Yes.
Yes.
The dark mind of a farmer.
Yes. and how wrong it can go.
Yes.
How evil.
When you're isolated in the wheat
evil
fields,
in the hearts of men.
things can happen.
Now, if I talked through this podcast the way he talked through that film,
Yes. But that had a certain charm, didn't it?
No, it didn't.
It really didn't?
Yeah, I just for some reason maybe it was down in that level. I have this in baseline area, where I've like destroyed my hearing.
I know what you mean.
I just couldn't understand a word he said for most of the film.
See, for me that kind of set the tone.
Yeah, not understanding.
And this movie
things.
is all about tone.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
slow paced. I mean, once you get into it, at first I hated it. I was like, "Oh my god, is something going to happen yet?" And then I was like, "Okay, I'll get into it."
It had an accumulative effect. I did like it much better than Gerald's Game.
Right.
And
they're totally different films, but or movies.
It was a very, very kind of standard story.
Yeah, it was very straightforward. At first, I thought it was gonna be a horror movie,
right? Yeah,
because it's Stephen King. I was waiting for something weird to happen, but it was like just kind of a dark story about this farmer.
It was very dark, and it
was even shot dark. I mean, the whole movie was kind of dark.
Nothing seemed to go right for him, and he seemed to, at the time that he makes his decision, he seems to just suck the light out of his entire world.
Did you not like the cow scene? I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the cow scene was, I like that. I also like the one shot of him. There was a shot of him and his wife and his son together, and they'd put flowers around the porch, and they're trying to. It was kind of this is what could have been.
Oh, it was when it was like all bright.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. The lighting was different.
The lighting was different on that one, and for some reason, that one shot kind of lifted my soul up a little bit, only to be crushed by the whole feel of the film. Oh man, it was crushing.
It was, yeah. I thought actually, even though the story was pretty basic, I thought it was actually kind of cool how they did it, especially when they followed the son.
Oh yeah,
when he went out with that girl,
right?
And what happened with that girl?
What happens with the
it's
girl?
just crazy.
Yeah, and the way
neighbor.
And the way that the neighbor, and the way that all the rest of everything that is around this guy, even things that he doesn't like, just die. Basically, it's about all the things around you dying.
Yeah,
and it's because of you. It's because of choices that you made. It is the karma motherfucker of all times, I tell you.
So in a way, it's kind of related to Gerald's Game, actually, because Gerald's Game was about what other people did to you. Yeah. This is about what you do to screw up your own life and other people's lives. I mean, he destroyed a lot of things.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They, I love that the vehicles, the Model A's and the Model T's.
Yeah.
No, they were Model T's. Yeah.
I like the overall look of it. I mean, I thought
the overall look was great,
especially the wheat fields when the wind was blowing and it was very like dark and
didn't you like it when the rich guy comes and who's the actor that was the rich guy, because he's great. He's sort of like a modern day Rutger Hauer.
Oh yeah.
I love it that when he drives to the when he comes over to his house, he's driving the nice car. Yeah, and the nice Model T, and it's just beautiful. The car was just so beautiful. And
oh, here it is.
And also can say that the guy who played the sheriff did such a good job of it, sort of just bringing the
sheriff.
news to him.
Yeah, Brian Darcy James played the sheriff.
Yeah, I loved it because the sheriff's role in it was to kind of mark time as we went along. Kind of. He seemed to be the touchstone for all the horrible things that kept going wrong for this guy.
And who was the rich guy? That was Neil McDonald was the guy that played the rich guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah, I saw you. Yeah.
Oh, one thing I liked about it, overall, it was kind of like, so if you look at it, if you think it's a horror movie and you watch it that way, one thing I like about it is it has kind of a very classic horror movie feel. Like before
with the
jump
little
scares,
animals.
no jump scares.
Yeah,
it was just kind of like
just a building.
Creepy.
It was a building one, creepy, like the mice, the rats. Yeah.
And the rats were kind of in the walls scratching and yeah. So there weren't any jump scares, but there was a lot of creepy moments.
Yeah, no, it was more of that soaking the light out of life kind of horror film. That's the typical soaking the light out.
You kind of feel like
life.
it's kind of sucking it out of you when you're watching it. Actually, if you get in.
Yeah, it was sort of the.
So how many corn cobs would you get this one?
Corn cobs
or wheat grains? I don't
know. Yeah. How many corn cobs? I'm gonna go 3. 3? 3 corn cobs. Yeah.
I'd probably be right around the same, actually.
Have you ever actually used an outhouse, a real old fashioned outhouse?
Yeah? Oh, sure.
Yeah. Where?
Well, I was a Boy Scout for one, so the summer camp I used to go to all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we are here.
Story time with her.
We had outhouses in the summer camps, and I grew up in Wyoming. I mean, outhouses everywhere.
Yeah.
When my parents and I would go camping and stuff, we were lucky to have an outhouse. Well, speaking of outhouses, not far out of Laramie, Wyoming, there's this place called the Grand Encampment.
Okay.
And there's a double-decker outhouse there. And the reason why it's double-decker is not so people can shit on your head, but it's because the snow gets so deep that they have to have another level for the winter.
Oh, that's gross. That's
I mean,
it's not interesting. That's gross.
So when the snow gets deep, I think they just start using the top level. I don't know what it's like to clean it.
Gotcha. Well, as far as I can remember, I never filled in our outhouse with a cow. So,
but that was one of my favorite places to go.
No, that's cool.
I mean, just because it's
double decker. Who knew, right? Who knew?
Right. And I wish I could tell you of the Grand Encampment. I just want to tell you what it is. It's it's an old town.
Oh, cool! It's an old town.
Oh, that's amazing, isn't it?
I'm going to do I have to look this up? Is there going to be a test on this?
The Grand Encampment Museum is located along the Colorado-Wyoming border in Encampment, the town of Encampment. It highlights copper mining, ranching, logging history in the area. It includes over 15 historical buildings and thousands of interesting objects. A research library is located in the main gallery. Everybody check out the Grand Encampment Museum. And I'm not getting paid to say this. You can see the double-decker outhouse.
I'm making sure you're not getting paid at all. Gotcha. I remember we
Story time.
Story time with Mick. Story time with Mick.
Story time with Mick.
Story time with Mick.
Story time with Mick. Story time with Mick. Story time with Mick.
We used to come up here all the time to Yakima. Used to fly up here, and there was an outhouse up here in this, like, my grandparents were in a house that was the typical farmhouse for Washington at that time, but the poor people's, the black paper. Honestly, there's black paper on the inside everywhere. When you looked around, because there was nothing on the walls. There was no cladding on the inside of the house. It was all black paper. I come from white trash. My dad was an itinerant. My dad actually was an itinerant laborer that used to travel up to Washington from from Colorado, and they used to follow the beet harvest.
Oh, okay.
Because as the beets, as you come west and north, no, not the beets. What's in beer? Barley.
Barley.
No, the hops. That's it, hops. And they used to pick hops, and they would ride the trains, and they would come up and he literally rode trains, itinerant.
Wow.
And eventually they settled over here in Yakima, and the house that he grew up in was this wooden shack that had the tar paper on it.
Whew.
And all the rest of that.
Seems like that'd be hot, especially in the summer.
I don't know, because the house that we would stay on would be the one that he bought later on, which was also an old farmhouse that didn't have a bathroom. It had a tub, but it didn't have a toilet. And you had to go, I just remember you had to go out in the middle of it was 27 acres, and out away from the house, because you didn't want one close to the house.
Of course not.
Was this incredibly funky, outhouse, and we would only stay there through the summer, right? And my dad wasn't the type that would actually do anything to this house, like clean it or something. But I remember on the inside of it, it had this old flocked paper, it looked like swirling pattern, done in 1920s flocked wallpaper, and it had that moon cut into it, and the whole and
the moon on the door.
Yeah, the moon on the door. No, it was the classic. And the thing is and everything was covered with this fabric that was that old. It was like it was horrendous. But we would come up for the summers. And I'm going to tell you a little story about flying with my dad from San Bernardino, flying up to here. And my dad was a pilot in World War II. And he knew how to fly before the war. And because of that, when the war came out, they made him a trainer, a pilot trainer. That was what we did. Is we were very clever about our pilots. If somebody got shot down a few planes, they were immediately pulled back in, and they were made to help do the tactics. And
that makes sense.
They trained more flyers. That was literally they would have the Japanese would have pilots that would fly until they died. And we just didn't do that. So
the Germans did too, right?
Yeah, they did too. It was a big problem that both of them had that problem. But my dad was a pilot during the war, and so when he always would have a plane. And so when it got up into the 60s, and I was between 10 and 14, right? I would fly with him instead of all the other kids. For some reason, I got to fly with him from there to Washington, from San Bernardino to Washington. And my dad as a pilot was the ultimate seat of the pants kind of pilot. The ultimate.
Right.
And I think that he spent his life trying to get himself into situations where he would feel alive. He was just one of those guys that just kind of was waiting for a disaster. He went through like 14 horrendous car wrecks because he was just that guy that was like looking for the big boom, right?
Right.
So this was what it was like to fly with him. We would be in Tri-City, and we would have this like V-tail Bonanza, and we would get up, we'd throw my bag in. I'd be in the pilot seat. I would be in the co-pilot seat. He's in the pilot seat. We get in, we would get up to cruising height, then like 20,000 feet or something like that. And then he would sit back and he would get himself on the compass dead north, right? Like from here to the dead north, right? So we get it flying dead north. And then there was this box of books that was down at the foot of my side of the plane. And he'd reach in, and I just specifically remember that they were Zane Grey. The ones with the cowboy guy.
Okay.
And there was always like a horse and a man, like with a 6-shooter on the front, right? And what he would do is he'd reach down and he'd grab like 5 or 6 of them, and he would like trade them out like one thickness for another until he got the yoke to like equal level flight. Right?
Yeah.
And then he would turn to me and he would say, "You keep your eye on those books, and if one of them moves, you wake me up," and he would go to sleep.
Wow. So autopilot.
So
awesome.
the autopilot with books. I mean, and
should have patented that idea.
and he was always running out of gas in his airplane because he was always. The thing is little planes. I don't know if you know much about planes, but little planes always have a problem in that they have long, low, flat tanks. Okay, gas tanks.
Right.
And the problem with a long, low, flat gas tank is that you can't meter how much gas you've got. And because they're very small and weight makes a big difference.
Well, that's why they're long, right? Just to balance out the weight, I would imagine, right?
Well, it's so that they can get enough capacity,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have one behind you. You usually have one behind you, one under your seats, and then one in each wing. And you have to balance the ones on the you have to balance all these, and it'll only pull out of one at a time. So you keep moving it around so that doesn't make you fly like in some strange manner.
Like the Spirit of St. Louis with Jimmy Stewart.
Right.
Switched around. I remember that. Okay.
So you always have to switch tanks. And the thing is because the tanks are so long and low, if you run out, they're too low to siphon. There's no pressure to siphon and actually make the plane go again, and you have to like go through this pumping procedure on the ground. And he was forever running out of gas. And so one time, I distinctly remember this, and this is the weirdest recollection, but it talk about getting burned in your head. We're coming up, and we would follow the 5 freeway. And we're following the 5 freeway when we get out like north of like Lake County, just like that area above Shasta that's just absolutely nothing but farmland on either side, right? And we are on, now when you're flying, you always fly with the traffic. So you fly on that side of the road. So we're going north, so we're on this side of the road. But at the time, there were all almond trees. Okay, we're at about, I want to say we're flying really low because it's foggy and he's trying to like see the lights of the cars down below. And so we're ridiculously low when he runs out of gas. And we're on the side of the freeway that's got nothing but trees.
So is that a good thing though? If you're low,
no, it's
not good.
No,
if you're low?
It's not good because you have to land.
Right.
And what you have to do is what he had to do is get on the other side of the freeway where the,
yeah,
and so
where it's clear.
Where it's clear. And so he swings it around and comes in, and now he's coming the other direction because you don't ever want to go, it's like a traffic thing. So he swings around and comes, and now he's over on the other side, and he comes out underneath the fog. He's at 1,000 feet. That's the ceiling. Okay. So as we come out of the fog, all of a sudden this runway just opens up in front of us, and it's a crop dusting runway. And
wow.
And it's getting dark. It's just about getting twilight, right? And we set it right down, right? And the sun goes down, and there's a farmhouse, like it looked like maybe 3/4 of a mile away. We see the lights come on in the farmhouse. We see the lights come on a truck. See the truck go around and wind around and comes around and comes down the road like this and down the road and we're both standing beside the plane, and the truck comes up and illuminates the two of us standing there, and the driver gets up and he goes, "Verge!" That's my father's name.
That's his name.
Virgil.
Yeah, okay.
It's Virgil, right?
I picked it up, yeah.
He goes, "Verge!" And it turned out that he had landed accidentally in the same place on the same runway before. Now, Now, this wasn't lost on the guy on this guy, right? So, and literally, we couldn't take off again until the next day, and we had to get fuel and everything else. And so we literally went and stayed at the at this guy's house. And then in the morning, we went to the only restaurant for 100 miles around, and the guy had called all of these people, because this was the funniest thing that could possibly happen. And my dad was very much like me as far as being a gregarious, guy. And so he was like a conquering hero because of this incredibly stupid thing that he had done twice, right? And we were in this cafe, and he is holding court and telling stories. And all I could sit there and think is, this is my life. This is my life. Right. I sort of I'm going to get my brother to fly with him next time.
Right. Yeah.
Not that he ever did, and we had many adventures just like that. But that's what flying with my father was like.
Jeez, that sounds like fun.
It is a very weird thing to know at a very, very young age how when you're in a really weird situation. And here's the thing. Is my life has never been different from that. I kind of embrace weird situations, but at the same time, weird situations have always embraced me.
Well, you were in the right field then.
I would. Well, yeah. Well, the question is this: did the field attract me, or
it called you,
or did I attract the field? Hard to tell.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on the Dream Warrior Review. This is Kurt Thomas along with Nick Strawn. We appreciate you listening to us, and please let your friends and family know about how awesome we are. You can hit us up at dreamwarriorreview@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at DWR Review. We'll see you next time on the Dream Warrior Review.